Joining us now, reporter for the Associated Press, David Crary. He's here to count down the 10 biggest stories of the year. Last year's top story was the mass shooting at the high school in Parkland, Florida, which sparked student-led marches all over the country. What is this year's biggest story? We'll start with number 10 on the list. But before we start, David, I just want to say that at the airport the other day, I met a Parkland mom, Gina Rose's mom, Jennifer, and wearing this bracelet through the holidays for Gina, remembering last year's top story and never forgetting it. So what is this year's top story?
We want to start at the top or at the bottom? Well, number 10.
Well, we can go backwards, I guess.
Number 10.
Do like a build-up. Okay? All right. 10, 9, 8, 7.
We'll work our way up. Frankly, number 10 could have probably been the top story in Asia if we voted just for that region. It's the long-running protests in Hong Kong. I think it started mid-year, June, still going on. And it's really a remarkable show of collective defiance against the most powerful government in that region. I think people around the world are impressed by the staying power and the courage of those protesters.
And number 9, Boeing jets grounded. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that was probably the most global story on our list. When you stop and think about it, it's affected airlines around the world. When Boeing decided to ground its MAX 737 jet, it's affected families of victims of 2 far-flung plane crashes, killed more than 300 people altogether. And now it's having a huge impact on Boeing, the biggest exporter in the U.S., announcing just a few days ago that it's going to suspend production of that plane indefinitely. So it's a story with a lot of ripples and a lot more to go on that saga.
You also have U.S.-China trade wars, number 8. But number 7, a story that's really been in the news the last week, Brexit.
Yeah. For most of the year, and it's been a story all year, it seemed like a saga of confusion and division and uncertainty. And then whammo, just in the last few weeks, it's a little different now with Boris Johnson succeeding and calling an early election and then winning a very solid victory. So now it seems Brexit indeed will happen. There's not much doubt about that. And the question is what the details will be, how it will unfold.
So the next one on the list, the next one on the list you have here is climate change, which some might argue is the number 1 concern the globe should have every year. Talk to us about that, and then segue into also why opioids is number 5.
Well, climate change should be, in my opinion, a story on this list every year. This year, there was sort of, depending on your viewpoint, good news and bad news. You have Trump pulling out of the Paris talks, or setting the stage for the U.S. to really withdraw from the international process. And on the other hand, you had young people all over the world, led at least figuratively by Greta Thunberg, casting a lot more attention on this issue, putting pressure on governments and adults to do something about it. Interesting sort of double developments there.
And opioids at number 4, and with mass shootings at opioids at 5 and mass shootings at 4. So
yeah. Tragedies. Well, the opioids epidemic has been going on for a couple of decades. What was different this year, and I think why it was so high on our list, it was sort of the year that victims, financial victims and real victims struck back. Governments of state, local governments went to court seeking huge settlements, and they're going to get those huge settlements. Purdue Pharma, one of the prime makers of OxyContin, declared bankruptcy. So you saw like a counter move that we really hadn't seen to that extent in previous years. Mass shootings, sadly, has become an annual fixture on our list, and it's a shame. It's there every year, and the differences are what the targets are. It's every year it's this sort of sad litany of schools, churches. And this year, a garlic festival in California. I mean, come on, it happens.
So we'll get to number 3 now, which is leading us up to the top one, the TrumpRussia probe.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, Mika. If we were polling for the first half of the year, this probably would have been a runaway number 1 story. It was preoccupying everybody. What's going to happen when Special Counsel Mueller comes and delivers his report? For all the buildup, I think a lot of people found it anticlimactic, both his presentation, the way it was handled by the Justice Department. It didn't really bring closure to that issue, left people frustrated, I think. But it was a big story. It deservedly made our list.
And we often have to remind ourselves that this story continues, but the immigration issue and the separation of families and the treatment of migrants, and especially children and young people at the border, continues to this day.
Yeah. This is an interesting case where, on the one hand, there was a debate over policy. A lot of people were troubled by some of the things that the Trump administration did. But the concern about the policies was magnified by the imagery, the interviews with parents and children who were separated, and the tragic stories kept popping up year long. I think they broke a lot of people's hearts. I think people defending the policies, some of them were on the defensive because the imagery and the stories were so sad. And it's not over. Those families, many still separated, many people not getting even to the U.S. border, but in sort of squalid temporary camps in Mexico waiting for something. So it's not over by any means.
And number one, the impeachment of President Trump. Talk about the impact on this presidency, on history, our place in the world, but also the rise of Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that this was the year of Trump. I think he was complaining that he wasn't Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But if you look at our list, he figures in at least 5 of the 10 top stories. This one, obviously, is such a historic thing, only the 3rd president to be impeached. But I agree with you. I think Nancy Pelosi is very much a co-leading actor in this, under a lot of pressure, a lot of criticism from the Republicans. But she kept her troops in line, very, very minimal defections. And I think she's going to play a big role as this thing possibly moves to the Senate. Her strategy now of delaying that transfer is fascinating. And I think it's going to be a real sort of contest of wills between the president and the speaker.
Well, you know, Jonathan Lemire, this is all very good news for you. Donald Trump, seeing this Associated Press list, you can say to him next time you see him, hey, buddy, we had you #1 and we had you in 5 of the top 10 stories. So how about that one-on-one interview in the White House now?
Yeah, we're due for another Oval Office interview, actually, Mr. President. We'll take it at any time. Yes, I guess it's the saying there's all publicity is good publicity, and I guess he certainly has. There's no question. I mean, he did not get a Time Person of the Year award this year, but he shapes sort of every conversation every day that we have, not just on this show but across the country. His impact, good or bad, is undeniable.
Oh, no doubt.
All right,
about it.
David Crary, thank you very much for being on the show and bringing that to us this morning. And
thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.